Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for tuning into today's video. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. It really helps out the channel. But aside from that, let's get into the main video. So for the main topic for today's video, we're going to be talking about something that sucks and isn't, it's definitely not an enjoyable topic, as you can probably tell from the title and that. But we're going to be talking about what the best methods are for putting your fish down, euthanizing your fish, that sort of thing. And this is in relation to two things. Number one is if you've got a sick fish or a really badly injured fish or something like that, what's the best to do in that situation. And then also on the other side of that, we're going to be talking about what to do with culls. Like if you're breeding, as we've talked about before, you do need a cull, deformed or unhealthy fish. So what is the best way of doing that, and the most kind way for the fish, and the most sort of ethical way of dealing with this situation? So we will do what we usually do, and I'll just show you the fish and stuff as we go while I talk over it. But the first sort of question that we're going to be looking at is for the space of ill or injured or, unwell fish. We're putting them down as the kindest thing to do. How do we go about doing that? And I mean, there would be a few options for that, and each of them has their pros and cons. Some of them have a lot more cons, some of them have a lot more pros. So we'll go through some of the most popular methods of putting down your fish and some more information about each of them. So probably one of the most popular methods, well, I don't know if popular, but most commonly thought of, has to do with this here. And so this is our freezer. Obviously this has got frozen foods in it, but one of the most common methods is putting them in a little jar or container of water and chucking that in the freezer and letting them freeze to death. Basically, don't do that. That's horrible. It sucks for the fish. It's terrible. They'll be in a lot of pain, all that kind of thing. It's not a sort of quick and easy method to getting rid of them. Quick and easy on the fish, I'm going to say, when I say easy. But yeah, I mean, it's not, it just generally, that's the first one. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. I don't think it's the best option. The next one is to do with what I put down here, which is, I'm going to see, how do we show this? Clove oil. Oh, that's going to be backwards, isn't it? Hold on. Clove oil. So that's the next method. This is it's one of those essential oils that people use for, like, I think they put it in those things, like, I think it like sprays mist, and it's like a diffuser, and it's supposed to, make you more peaceful and stuff. But that's obviously not the application we're talking about. The application we're talking about is for killing fish. Well, that's a harsh way of putting it, but yeah. Putting down fish, shall we say. And the way you would do that, the method you do is you get a bucket of water out of the tank, maybe, like a 5-gallon bucket or something. And then what you do is you chuck the fish in that bucket of water out of the tank, and then add clove oil, and kind of, you want to have surface agitation, like have an air stone going or something, and then add like 1 ml at a time over the course of like 10-15 minutes, the clove oil, and basically it puts them to sleep sort of naturally, I guess. So this is one of the most popular ways of doing it, probably the most popular, I'm going to say. And this is, for example, the only method that is acceptable to MPI here in New Zealand. Like if you're importing fish and something needs to be put down, that's the only method that you're allowed to use with MPI. I, however, am not a fan. I think it is quite harsh on the fish. Like, it's not, so I haven't researched it too much, but from what I understand, it kind of like burns their gills a little bit, and is a bit more painful, and it does obviously take a long time, like we said, 15 minutes or something like that. So it'll work, but what it does do is it just takes some time. Obviously the fish is going to be very, very stressed while you do that and while it's process, because obviously you're not going to be able to explain to a fish what's going on obviously. So yeah, it brings us to the methods that I would recommend. These are the fish that just got a water change, so that's why the water's all messed up. But the method I would recommend the most is, there's kind of two of them. It'll probably depend on the exact fish, like size-wise and everything, but the blunt force trauma or decapitation is probably the quickest, most painless way. It'll take a few seconds at the most, and the fish will be not even aware of what's going on. By that time it'll be fully dead. What a lot of people do is you get a net, like a fish net, and put it in the net, catch it, and then just quickly pick it out, pull it out, and whack it into the ground quite hard. If it's done hard, it'll definitely work, and it'll take a second, maybe 2 seconds at the most, to actually have the desired result, and then it will be done. I think it's a bit brutal, but it is the most fast way. The only problem with it is if you're not going to be able to do that, and you do it and it's not hard enough the first time, the fish is going to keep surviving, still live through that, obviously in a lot of pain in that. So that's kind of the worst part about this method, is it does need to be done. I don't know how to explain, but you kind of need to commit to it. With the clove oil, it's a lot less sort of vicious and a lot less harsh. But yeah, and then decapitation is pretty self-explanatory. Just catch it out, put it on have something next to it like a surface, and just cut its head off. That's going to be very fast. Again, not so brutal in the sense of it's whacking it against the floor, but you are going to have that active hand in it, if that makes sense. So yeah, if I was gonna choose the best option, I definitely think that just whacking them against the floor is the safest and fastest way to do it for 99% of circumstances. If it's something really big, you have to put down an Oscar or something, that's not going to work. You'll probably want to do either decapitation or maybe clove oil. Again, it is pretty brutal, but it does sort of need to be done in the sense that it is kind of the kindest thing to do in that situation. So yeah, and then the next situation, it's a different situation, but it's what do you do with culls? What is the best way to dispose of culls? So this is say you're breeding a bunch of angelfish, and you breed a bunch, and say 20%, 25% of the spawn has real crooked back stuff. We obviously don't want these fish sort of in the population, in the sense that then these deformities get passed down. And also, it's not right for the fish. They're not going to be able to swim properly. They're going to struggle to compete for food and everything like that. So we want to sort of... It sucks to be done. The quality control of breeders does mean that you do have to put fish down if they need that sort of... If you're finding you're having deformities and issues like that. All these above or previous methods that we've talked about, they all are going to hold true. You can do all of those. That is going to be suitable. But the only other thing that is my preferred method of getting rid of culls would be using them as feeder fish. So I'm normally against feeder fish, but culls is the time when I think it is the best option. You want to feed them when they're still very small. You don't want to be feeding fish this big. That's pretty brutal. But just tiny little ones. Basically, as soon as they're big enough to pick out deformities and that's when you're going to want to feed them. And feed them to big stuff like biches and that kind of thing, so that they're just gone instantly. You don't want them getting chased around and ripped to pieces. That's horrific. If you do that, you're crazy. I really hate that. But just one quick, the second it touches the water, snapped up and it's gone. That's probably the best option for those sort of things. The main reason I argue for that is because that's what we're doing, is essentially replicating nature in a closed system. Because these ones that have wonky ass spines or crooked mouths and that's basically what's going to happen to them in the wild. And safest and most efficient and most humane way of getting rid of them, because once they're gone, they're fully eaten. So yeah, these are kind of the best methods I think for dealing with this unfortunate situation. No one's ever going to enjoy it. Again, if you enjoy it, you're crazy. But it does need to be done. Sometimes, sometimes fish get injured, sometimes they get too sick, sometimes they just are deformed, and we need to find a humane way of disposing of them. And in my opinion, the methods we've talked about today, this is like the methods we just talked about in terms of what's the best methods to get rid of them, are the most safe and most humane ways. If you have any questions about any of these methods, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And let me know if I've missed anything that is obvious that you think is your preferred method and you think is the safest or most humane, and I'd love to hear it. But yeah, if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Love you all. See ya.